Today we're driving the newly refreshed 2022 Volkswagen Tiguan. This is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It makes 184 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. This one is all-wheel drive with Volkswagen's 4Motion system and has an 8-speed automatic transmission, and fully loaded, this is around $37,000, including destination. $36,595, and destination's around $1,100. Really well optioned, very nice looking crossover. Pretty big too, a lot of space inside. This is the slightly longer wheelbase Tiguan that came out in 2017. Just a refresh of that, and boy, there is a lot of room in this crossover. We even get a spare tire. This also has the Fender sound system, which we'll test later on in this video. That's the subwoofer in the back. We have a cargo cover right here. You can fold these seats nice and flat, pulling these levers on both sides, and wait until you see the amount of space in the rear. An automatic tailgate for the SEL R-Line model. I haven't driven a Tiguan in a really long time, and I'm surprised at the amount of room in this. The last time we were out here was in the new Volkswagen Taos, and for the class, that was incredibly spacious. And I think I've got the same things to say about this. Look at this amount of legroom. I can completely stretch out at my seating position in front of me at 5'10". Pretty impressive. We also get adjustable backrests, so you can have a little bit more cargo space or a little bit more rear legroom, which is very nice. Volkswagen gives us a couple cup holders back here, rear climate control vents, a USB-C port, and a 12-volt cigarette lighter plug. Pretty attractive, nice looking interior, and we do have some haptic buttons in this Tiguan, but Volkswagen has improved the speed of their infotainment system. This is the top trim. I've got some good things to say about the way this Tiguan is to use and the user interface. Definitely an improvement over the ID4 and the Golf GTI that we had recently. We have a massive panoramic sunroof, easily adjustable headrests there. That's kind of cool. A lot of cool looking interior materials, accent points. I like the seat piping up front and out back. Let's hop up front, start this Tiguan up, and see what it's like in the front seat. Fully digital gauge cluster, and like I said earlier, this 10-inch touchscreen that will sense when your hand gets near and give you some other options like this swipe down menu with a few favorites. Down here we have these new climate controls, which are all touch-based. You've got heated and cooled seats, both of which you can turn on at the same time, which is awesome. And this little slider here for your fan speed works pretty nicely. None of this is haptic like you get on the steering wheel, but it seems to work pretty well on first impressions. It's not as difficult to use as you would think, and even though it is all touch, I would definitely prefer knobs and physical controls, but this week using this has been totally fine, and it looks attractive, it looks nice, it looks modern and sleek, and it's not hidden within this menu up here. You do have a separate menu for, syncing your temperatures on both sides and manual controls, but honestly, this is all you need, and I'm glad that Volkswagen has made this a nice, user-friendly system. On the steering wheel, though, you do get haptic feedback. It gives you a little bit of a vibration when you swipe through menus and various things, very similar to what we've seen in other Volkswagen products. We have our heated steering wheel control over here to the far right, which inadvertently gets turned on somewhat often. You have to be careful, kind of keep your palms out when you're steering around corners in this Tiguan. But otherwise, a nice level of touch controls and physical buttons all throughout this new Tiguan. We even have our drive mode selector down here, which is kind of a rotating dial. You get a couple off-road driving modes and an Eco Sport custom drive mode. We'll mostly just leave it normal today. There's also a snow driving mode, which is good for winter driving. You can turn off stop start very quickly with the press of a button right here. There's park assist, and then you have a quick access button to see your camera view right here. That'll take you to a 360 view. If you want to see behind you, you just click behind you. If you want to see in front of you, you just click in front of you. Same with side to side. Very useful. Not the highest resolution displays, but a pretty convenient system at a quick press of a button. We've seen this fully digital gauge cluster in a lot of other Volkswagens recently. It shows you a bunch of different settings, menus. You can see your driver assist systems. One thing I am really happy to report is that whenever you turn on this Tiguan, lane assist does not automatically turn on every time. If you turn it off, it's going to stay off. That was a big complaint that I've had recently with the Atlas, with the GTI, with a lot of others like the ID4. One of the more annoying, I think, safety features, and it's nice that you can leave that off in this new Tiguan. Menu kind of acts as your home button, which is great, and like I said earlier, this is a much more responsive infotainment and display. You've got your electronic parking brake down here, your gear selector, which is just a standard gear selector, works great, nice reverse camera. You've got a couple different transmission modes, drive and sport. We'll test those later on in this video when we take it on the road. On the outside, we've got a slightly refreshed exterior, new front and rear bumpers, slightly different wheels. I believe these are 20-inch wheels, 255/40 R20 Pirellis. Pretty nice looking wheel tire package. Really fills out the fenders and has a good stance to it. This is a different bumper on this R line. Looks pretty sporty. I like the lines of this Tiguan. We do get Volkswagen's fake exhaust tips here, which I've always thought is kind of funny looking, but I guess if you're just glancing at it, they look pretty convincing. Under the hood is Volkswagen's 2-liter TSI engine. In all-wheel drive form, this is rated for around 25 miles to the gallon combined. Very smooth, pretty torquey, reasonably efficient. We also get some updated headlights. This is Volkswagen's IQ full LED lighting system. That is standard now on the 2022 Volkswagen Tiguan. All right, let's take this on the road, see how it drives. We have two USB-C ports down there along with a cigarette lighter port. We have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with wireless and wired compatibility. All right, let's set off and see how this Tiguan drives on the road. We have super lightweight steering, not a very fast rack, which is nice. I think a super fast steering rack makes a lot of sense on the GTI, but in a crossover SUV, you want a little bit more control at low speeds. Upon first impressions, this Tiguan drives pretty nicely. It feels very similar to the Taos, just a little bit larger, a little bit bigger. The 2-liter engine provides enough grunt. It feels well matched to the weight and size of this. Transmission programming seems pretty good in normal mode. It's smooth, no major lurches or weird abrupt starts like I've experienced in the Atlas. We have Strut-type front suspension and multi-link rear suspension. Ride quality is nicely composed. Feels pretty good. The transmission does a nice job utilizing the torque curve and revving out without downshifting too much. Let's put us into sport mode here. We'll just pull back on the gear lever. No paddle shifters. But in sport mode, the transmission seems to do a pretty good job on its own. Engine is very quiet, very smooth. The front end is very good for a crossover. Feels nice and tight, very predictable. And of course, these 255 width tires definitely help a lot with grip. Let's see if sport mode changes the sound of the engine at all. Nope, sounds about the same. Pretty quick shifts from this 8-speed automatic too. You can put it into manual mode. It's back to shift down and up to shift up. Not a ton of power from this 2-liter turbo. I wouldn't mind just a bit more horsepower out of this. 184 horsepower is a little bit low for a crossover this size. That torque number does help though. 221 pound-feet of torque is not too shabby. The front-wheel drive Tiguan might feel a little bit quicker since it's got less weight out of the drivetrain. That said though, this 4-motion all-wheel drive is probably what most people will swing for, at least around here in Michigan. Getting up to speed, we're pretty quiet over these bumps. NVH is nice, not a lot of wind noise. A little bit of tire noise, but not too bad considering we're on 20-inch wheels. Very stable, very confident, inspiring. Brake pedal feels good, a lot of bite from the brakes all the way around. Kind of fun to drive on a back road, if I'm being honest. Feels a lot more solid than the Taos did. Maybe not as nimble, or maybe as fun to drive, but it's not far off. And for the amount of interior space in this Tiguan, not a bad driving crossover. You have a nice high driving position. Pretty good greenhouse too. I can see very well over the hood line. Nice low door frames. And I love this massive panoramic sunroof. While we're on the stretch, let's test out the brakes and do a 0 to 60. Pretty good. I'm not seeing a button to turn off traction control. We probably have to go into a couple menus for that. And there's 60 miles per hour. Not the fastest crossover on the market, but I think ample power and plenty of get up and go for your everyday needs. Doesn't feel slow, doesn't feel quick. It's just a nice middle ground. It gives you enough power. And if you're an enthusiast driving a Tiguan, you could probably always go see APR for a tune. I'm sure they've got something for you. We've got some straight roads here. Let's test out this driver assistance system. We've got a lot of standard driver assistance features, pretty much the whole suite of everything you could want. And Volkswagen's done a nice job democratizing all those features into every model in the Tiguan lineup. You can quickly begin travel assist, which is basically just kind of lane keep assist and radar guided cruise control, adaptive cruise control with the press of this button right here. Does a nice job keeping you centered in the lanes, does a pretty good job navigating on the highway with distance control and everything like that. You can hold the up and down buttons for 5 mile an hour changes or just single press them for 1 mile an hour changes. The car will decelerate on its own pretty quickly into this 25 mile an hour zone. And as you can see, even on this back road with not so perfect lines, it's keeping us really well centered. If I wanted to turn off the system, all I do is just press the off button and we're back into normal driving mode. You can also quickly access a lot of your assist systems by pressing your cruise control stock button right there, where you can turn on lane assist, automatic cruise control, standard cruise control, blind spot side assist, and rear traffic alert, as well as front assist, collision avoidance. Really nice to have all those buttons within a quick press and easy access. I think Volkswagen's starting to figure out some good ergonomics in their crossovers. This Tiguan, like I said, is a really nice blend of integrating modern tech, newer, updated looking infotainments and interiors with a reasonably quick and responsive screen. Again, some of my biggest gripes with Volkswagens in the past, a lot of settings have been hidden in the menus, and the screen is just super laggy and not as responsive as it needs to be. This new Tiguan's a big improvement on that front. I don't love these haptic buttons on the steering wheel, but they're not that much more difficult to use than standard buttons would be. And once you get to use them and get to know them, they work pretty well. My only complaint is just occasionally hitting this heated steering wheel button, but you kind of learn to keep your hand away from that. Let's test out the sound system, this Fender audio system in this new Tiguan. We'll go into our sound system playlist and crank up the volume. Appreciate that we still get a volume knob instead of a slider. I think a pretty nice sound system for this price point. Not super clear, it doesn't have the most bass or the most clear trebles, but I think a good middle of the line sound system. The Fender has always been either pretty good or just okay, and this kind of falls somewhere in the middle. So how can we sum up this 2022 Volkswagen Tiguan? Well, I think this is a pretty nice overall package. I really like how this SEL R-Line drives. It's very confident on the road. The 255 wide tires just give me a lot of nice road feel. It feels very planted. There's a lot of mechanical grip. It's kind of fun to drive. It feels like it's a lot shorter wheelbase than it actually is. It rotates nicely around corners. There's probably some brake torque vectoring going on in the background too. The engine is quick enough. There's ample power here, though nothing that's necessarily class leading. The 8-speed automatic transmission is smooth. It gives you the right amount of gears, utilizes the torque from this turbocharged 2-liter very well without shifting too much or doing anything unexpected. I think the starting price for this is around $26,000 for the front-wheel drive base Tiguan, which is pretty good value, and it just kind of goes up to there. This one being fully loaded at around $37,000, I think is a really nice vehicle. It's got pretty much everything you need. All the tech, a decent sound system, heated, cooled seats, a heated steering wheel, fully digital gauge cluster, and of course the full suite of safety stuff that isn't too intrusive or annoying to use in the car, which I really appreciate. I love that Volkswagen has done away with automatically turning on lane assist every time you get in the car, and you have some quick access buttons to all these menus, all these settings. This travel assist is a really nice feature. You can just quickly enable it, and it automatically turns on lane keep assist and radar cruise control, and you can adjust from there depending on what type of driving scenario you're in. Super useful for back roads or highway driving if you just need to be able to quickly turn that on at a moment's notice. Very well done. That's definitely a worthy feature to get in your Volkswagen Tiguan. Some of these new haptic controls I'm not as crazy about, but honestly, after using this car, driving it for an hour, I'm used to all of it. It works great. It's a much better implementation in this Tiguan than it is in the new GTI or the new ID4. So I applaud Volkswagen for still sticking with a few physical controls and buttons in and around this car. It works. It's a user interface that is easy to learn initially and easy to use in practice on the go. Otherwise, I think this is a pretty solid offering in the crossover segment. It's got an amazing amount of space inside. It almost feels bigger inside than it looks like it would be on the outside. It's attractively styled, well priced. Interior materials aren't really the best in here. It's nothing blowing me away, but the seat piping looks really good. The seats are comfortable. There's also some pretty cool cloth options in this Tiguan too. Kind of gives you everything that you want and delivers well on features, tech, driving experience. I'm not really coming up with too many complaints about this Tiguan. On first impressions, it's a really nice overall package. If you need all-wheel drive, this 4Motion system seems to do a pretty good job. Of course, we're not in any type of inclement weather or slippery conditions today, but I like that it has a few off-road modes. It's got a decent amount of ground clearance. We'll put whatever that is down below. And it drives smoothly. It's a nicely calibrated and well-tuned driving vehicle. Sometimes Volkswagens had some weird stuff going on with their tuning, especially their initial throttle tip-in. The Atlas was really sensitive, and the Volkswagen Taos was a little bit rougher with its dual clutch transmission. This Tiguan, the tuning is excellent. I really like the way everything is calibrated. It's a smooth driving experience. Your passengers aren't going to be jostled around too much, and it's an easy car to drive smoothly, which is very nice. Alright guys, well that'll wrap up our thoughts on the new Volkswagen Tiguan. We'll just back into this parking space here, show off that reverse camera one more time. Nice rotating lines, get us perfectly centered between the parking lines, and that's a wrap. Thanks for watching guys, we'll see you in the next video. If you want to see more on this Volkswagen Tiguan, check out the Winding Road Magazine YouTube channel. Charlie's got a couple drives on this 4Motion SEL R line and a front-wheel drive Tiguan. And we'll also be doing a video on the front-wheel drive Tiguan here on TheTopher. You can follow me on Instagram at TheTopher2. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.